Welcome to our worship service at First Unitarian Society of Ithaca. Here we gather, nurturing our connections, seeking inspiration, and hopeful for light and warmth as we move in fits and starts toward spring. My name is Magdalene Lindeberg, and I'm the Celebration Associate today. Thank you so much for joining us. Welcome to everyone, whether you are newcomers or have been attending for a long time, members of the Ithaca community, or watching from elsewhere. We're so glad you're here with us. Please check your email, our Facebook page, and our website for more information about how to create connections. If you'd like to receive weekly emails describing opportunities for engagement, please send a request to office@uuithaca.org. Newcomers are specially invited to visit our website and complete a newcomer form on the homepage so we can get to know you and you can learn more about us. Our service this morning has been pre-recorded, but we look forward to sharing the service broadcast on Sunday morning and seeing you at the live coffee hour that follows.
I'm Margaret Nichols from the stewardship team, and I'm here to tell you about a postcard which you're going to get in the mail, which you may have gotten already. It will look just like this, except completely different, but it will be the same kind of shape. This postcard will have magical properties which you can activate by filling it out and sending it in. And to send it in, you put it into an envelope, which looks like this, or something like that, and put a stamp on it and write the address, fuse it, P.O. Box 6, Ithaca, New York, 14851. And then you throw it in the mail. But you do have to fill it out first. Don't just send it back, fill it out first and then send it back. Alternatively, you can, you can go to our website, which is at Ithaca, uuithaca.org. And if I can find it, I will share the picture with you of what you will see. Here's what you will see. There. Isn't that nice? That's what the postcard will look like. It'll have the same sort of image. So online on the website, look for the pink part that says love on it. Click on that and you get this form and you fill it out and click on submit at the bottom. And that's it. And that will be very exciting and it'll match my vest. Isn't that great? So thank you. Bye.
Our opening words this morning are by my colleague, Reverend Lynn Cox. Come, you accidental pilgrims, you who find yourself on a journey of surprise and wonder. Come, you who emerge into this place as an act of liberation. Come, you who seek a life of mindfulness and a place to test your thoughts. Come, you who bring hearts of all kinds, heavy hearts, rusty hearts, hearts broken open in revelation, hearts full of love to share. Come, you who seek courage, and you who have more courage than you realize. Come, you who stand behind the curtain, gathering up the resources to claim your truth. Come, you who have been in a bubble, you who are poised for transformation. We begin our story again, gathering courage, love, mindfulness, and a sense of purpose. We gather as people of all ages, of different abilities, different backgrounds, and different perspectives. We share a covenant, a direction for our shared journey, and a commitment to encourage and challenge one another to spiritual growth. This path will ask much of us. Let us move forward with love. Let us move forward with appreciation for one another. Let us move forward knowing we are not alone. Whoever you are, whoever you love, wherever you are on your spiritual journey, you are welcome here. Here you belong.
I have this lovely chalice that my son made me, a reflection of the one at church. We light this chalice for the warmth of love, the light of truth, and the energy of action.
Our faith tradition is a living tradition. In it, we describe 6 sources of our living tradition instead of one holy book or one prophet who we follow. And when we learn new things, we expect our faith to change. We vote on adding new sources and new principles as well as changing them when we need to. We're committed to keeping an open mind about anything that might challenge or change our faith. So what's one of the ways that our faith guides us into becoming a people of commitment? It tells us everything changes, so be ready never to stop growing. So now I would invite you to take out your packet for this week, except we didn't send you one for this week, and that's because our object this week is an ice cube. It's an ice cube. Very cold. And when I hold it in my hand, something happens to it. What is it? Changes to a different form. It's water. It's starting to drip. I'm going to put it in this jar so that we can check on it in a little bit. So, ice is made out of water, which is made out of hydrogen and oxygen. And so you might be wondering, what does that have to do with commitment? Well, our theme this month is commitment, and we're exploring the 4 C's of commitment for Unitarian Universalists. Our first week, we explored our commitment to curiosity. And this week, we will explore change. The 2 other C's are conscience and compassion, and we'll get to those later. But commitment means that we act on what we value and hold important. That means that we expect change, just like the ice is changing. Let's check on it now. Let's see. It's definitely melting a little bit more. Whoop. Is the ice cube dying? Or is it just changing? When it turns to water, will it stop changing? No, it won't. It will evaporate eventually. Almost everything keeps changing and changing all the time, including us and our ideas. We Unitarian Universalists expect change in our lives and our beliefs. What we believe when we're 4 years old will be different than what we believe when we are 8 years old. And what we believe when we're 8 will change. And some things will be different that we believe when we are 12. And what we believe when we're 12 may well change when we grow to be 20 years old, or 40 years old, or 60 years old, or 80 years old. Because we believe that this is part of living and growing, that change is inevitable. This ice cube always has hydrogen and oxygen molecules, H2O. Whether it's ice or water or steam. And we pretend today that our commitments are like molecules. Curiosity, change, conscience, compassion. They've always been there in some form in our faith. But our understandings, our language, what we leave out, what we include, it changes. There was a point when, in our sources of our faith, that we referred to words and deeds of prophetic women and men. And in recent years, we've changed that language to instead say the words and deeds of prophetic people, because we've learned that there are more than 2 genders. There's not just male and female. Wow, look how wet this thing's coming. We also are being invited right now to have the chance to include an 8th principle to our 7 principles, which we know and we hold dear. And that 8th principle is focused on anti-racism work, focusing on how we dismantle systems of oppression in our institutions. We've added sources, we added earth-centered traditions to our sources, and even if we go further back, all the way back to 1961, ask your parents and your grandparents about 1961. But as we go farther back, in 1961, when Unitarianism and Universalism were merged, they originally said that one of our goals, one of our principles, was to encourage cooperation of men of goodwill in every land. So the compassion was there, but the word men at that time meant everyone, but it really didn't. So now we use words like humankind instead of mankind. And our world has changed just like then. Just like this ice cube. So how has this changed? There's definitely more water than there is ice. And just like that, things can change in our lives. We can expect all sorts of changes in our lives. Sometimes changes we want, and sometimes changes we don't. Sometimes it's easy to change, but that's why we're in it together, because sometimes it's not so easy. We have to help each other, not only to be open to change, but also helping each other adjust, let go, embrace what's new. We all change, but we're in it together. Each week we create a space in our worship together as a communal spiritual practice, and we gather up the joys and the sorrows of our lives. We share them into this shared space, this communal bucket of love and of sorrow and of community. We lift up these names and these circumstances which call for our joy and our celebration, and also those which cause us sorrow and worry. This week, I lift up all those who are finding it difficult as we enter into this second year of a pandemic. Those who are feeling lonesome, those who are missing family, those who are struggling with addiction or mental illness or any illness of their body or their mind. And I lift up all those who are struggling with unsafe home lives, that they may find peace and comfort and safety. If you're watching this service in its live format, I invite you to type your joy or your sorrow into the chat box, or you can speak them aloud into the universe so that we may hold them together. Together may we trust that these joys and these sorrows, that they are held by the universe, and that they are held by each of us. At the beginning of our live coffee hour each week, we'll have a facilitator who will offer space for the sharing of joys and sorrows. And my prayer is that we will all engage in this communal spiritual practice of listening deeply, of reminding each other of the holiness of love and relationship, and of being compassionate to one another. Now, holding in our hearts the joys and the sorrows that we've shared and those that remain in the silent sanctuaries of our hearts, I invite us into some moments of reflection and prayer. This is a meditation from Gwen Matthews. I invite you to put your hand on your chest, feel your heart beating, your chest rising and falling with each breath. Feel that? Each breath, every inhale, exhale, we are living, breathing, connected. We are the whole, complete, beautiful selves that we were born to be. Feel that? In your bones, in your muscles, in your heart and your blood. That is the extraordinary you. The you who was born for this time, this place, this moment. Feel that? The struggle, the worry, the pain, the loss, the grief. It is still you. You are still whole, complete, beautiful, extraordinary. Feel that. May it be so.
Gonna keep on moving forward. Keep on moving forward. Keep on moving forward. Never turning back. Never turning back. Sigamos adelante. Siempre adelante. Siempre adelante. Sin volver atrás. Sin volver atrás. Gonna keep on loving boldly. Keep on loving boldly. Keep on loving boldly. Never turning back. Never turning back. Amaremos con pasión. Siempre con pasión. Siempre con pasión, sin volver atrás, sin volver atrás. across our borders, reach across our borders, never turning back, never turning back. Vivamos sin fronteras, siempre sin fronteras, siempre sin fronteras, sin volver atrás, sin volver atrás. Gonna reunite the family, reunite the family, reunite the family, never turning back, never turning back. Familias reunidas, siempre reunidas, siempre reunidas, sin volver atrás, sin volver atrás. Gonna keep on moving forward, keep on moving forward, keep on moving forward, never turning back, 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 never turning back.
Peace.
We love you.
Each week, we take an offering to sustain the important ministries and programs of this congregation and its presence in Ithaca. The giving information will appear on your screen in a moment during the offertory music. Giving to the plate is important. It's a symbol of our gratitude for this service and our ongoing commitment to support the work of this church. The first time you give with the text link, it's a longer process, but after the initial information is entered, the following donations are quick and easy. So, please take a moment and give through either the text option or the giving button on the homepage of the website. May these gifts bring about connection, inspiration, and engagement within these walls and beyond.
Our reading this morning are words by my colleague, Reverend Teresa Inés Soto. In this community, they write, in this community, we hold hope close. We don't always know what comes next, but that cannot dissuade us. We don't always know what to do, but that will not mean that we are lost in the wilderness. We rely on the certainty beneath, the foundation of our values and ethics. We are the people who return to love like a North Star, and to the truth that we are greater together than we are alone. Our hope does not live in some glimmer of an indistinct future. Rather, we know the way to the world of which we dream. And by covenant and movement forward of one right action and the next, we know that one day we will arrive at home. Perhaps you've heard the story of Noah and the flood, the one from Hebrew scripture, from the Bible. It goes something like this. Did you ever make such a mess of your homework that you just got crazy mad and frustrated and wanted to crumple the whole thing up and throw it away? That's how God was feeling, looking around at the world. You pour your heart and soul into making this wonderful world, God said, full of people and animals and plants, and if you think it's easy, try getting the stripes on a zebra just right. All that effort, and for what? A year or two or 1,500 go by and the whole thing is a mess. People, what was I thinking? They are rotten to the core, God thought. They lie, they cheat, they murder, they steal. There's not a decent one in the whole bunch. Dang it all, I should just start over. Obliterate the whole mess, start from scratch. Yeah, I think that's what I'll do. And so God took a good look around to make sure that there were not, in fact, any decent people about to be destroyed. And it turned out that God found one good, kind, clean living family, the family of a man named Noah. And so God went to Noah and said, "This world is just plain no good, and I am planning on getting rid of all the people except you and your family. So this is what you have to do. Build a really big boat, big enough for not only you and your family, but also a pair of every kind of animal there is. I'll give you some time, but you better get on it because I'm going to rain this whole place out and everyone who isn't on that boat is going to drown." Now I imagine that Noah had a hard time believing his ears, but he gathered up his family and told them what he'd heard. They no doubt had a hard time believing Noah, but they trusted him, and so some of the family set about building the boat, called it an ark, while others went and gathered up the animals. Of course, everybody else thought Noah was just plain nuts for building this ginormous boat and filling it with animals, but Noah and his family just kept right on working. And eventually, the rain came. And it rained and rained and rained like no rain you ever saw. It was as if the sky was full of millions of fire hydrants all opened at once. The water got higher and higher and covered the land, and the giant boat, full of animals and Noah's family, gently rose with the water. For days and nights, the rain went on until finally it just stopped. The people ran to the windows of the ark and they were astonished to see blue sky and blue water and nothing else. Just water and sky. There was nowhere to go and nothing to do, so they waited and waited. And finally, Noah sent a raven out to fly around and look for land, but the raven came back tired. There was nowhere for it to rest. So Noah waited another week, and then he sent a dove out to fly around and look for the land, but it just came back tired too. So he brought the dove back in, waited another week, played checkers, Monopoly, sent it out again. And this time the dove came back with a twig from an olive tree in its beak. It had found land. Eventually the water backed off enough for Noah to see the ark had come to rest on the top of a mountain, and there was land all around them. Maybe not dry land, wet and mushy land, but land, all the same. And finally, the people and the animals were able to leave the crowded, smelly ark and touch the earth. They were all overcome with gladness, and Noah made an altar to thank God for bringing them to safety. "Welcome home," said God. "I will make a deal with you, a promise, a covenant. My covenant is with all the beings on the earth, not just the people. You go forth and populate the earth and fill it again with all your kind. And I promise never to flood the earth again. And as a sign of my covenant to you, I will put a rainbow in the clouds. And every time you see a rainbow, it will remind you of our covenant to create and preserve life." This is a story that reminds us of the power of a promise. It's a story where the promise is between God and all beings, and that's one way to think about the promise or covenant and the way it shows up in our lives. Now, for Unitarian Universalists, the concept of covenant is foundational to our values and the way we live our lives. Each of us is in covenant with other Unitarian Universalists, with our congregations, and our congregations with one another. In fact, that's exactly what our UUA is, the Unitarian Universalist Association of Congregations. That's the full name. Our congregations are in covenant with one another to be a source of support for one another. Sometimes this looks like sharing staff or ministers. Sometimes it means helping each other out financially or with leadership training opportunities. And sometimes it means reaching out to each other when bad things happen and our sibling congregations need our support or our solidarity. And it's the same with us as individuals. As Unitarian Universalists, we are not bound together by a shared belief system. Instead, we are bound together by our covenant with one another in our shared search for truth and meaning. It is the promises we make to one another that are the foundation of our spiritual and religious lives with one another. It's not what we believe, but how we will be. So what role does a covenant play when we disagree? What happens when we're feeling let down? What does our covenant do to serve us when we are wanting to crumple it all up and throw it out and start over? Well, part of being in covenantal relationship is the reminder that we are not in this all by ourselves. Being in covenant with others is a constant reminder that we are interconnected with others, that we are in relationship with others. It is acknowledging that our happiness, health, and well-being is tied up with the happiness, health, and well-being of the people with whom we journey in this life. It is acknowledging that our actions have an impact, sometimes intended and often unintended. Now, this can be simultaneously reassuring and frustrating. I mean, sometimes life is just not going our way. Sometimes, like God in our story with Noah, we are fed up and we just want to crumple it up and throw it out. And like God did, we also need to go looking for the reminder that there is goodness and decency and a way forward. When we enter into a covenant, in that moment, we might not understand why it's important. But eventually, we will mess up and do or say things that will break that covenant. And what we have signed onto at the beginning is permission to others to hold us accountable, and vice versa. When I counsel couples who want to be married, I talk about the wedding vows. There is no magical word that will make a marriage. There's no special phrase I can speak that will help the two people live into their covenant with one another. It is only through diligence, care, and intention that they will together create a marriage. Sometimes that requires revisiting their vows. Sometimes it requires shifting the promise as their relationship grows and changes. But more often than not, it involves a day in and day out promise to each other to live into the promises they have made to each other and hold each other accountable with love when they don't. Covenants are not rules and laws sent down from on high. Instead, they are promises made in good faith and in the understanding that we are holders of the covenant, not some external force out there, us. To enter into a covenant with others is a bold choice. To preemptively make a promise to be better is a bold choice. To promise, to strive toward being in right relationship with others, some we know and some who we have yet to know, is a bold choice. This is one of the most holy parts of being part of a Unitarian Universalist congregation. The bold choice is the decision to say yes to relationship and yes to ourselves at the same time. And speaking up and holding others accountable is part of that promise. For many of us, this is one of the more uncomfortable parts of covenant. When we promise to do our best and hold others to the same, we may not realize what that feels like in the moment. And when that happens, when we are held accountable, we might feel shame, guilt, anger, fear. We might be embarrassed that we haven't lived up to the ideals we said we would. We might feel annoyed that another person is naming something hard in the moment. No one likes to feel called out. And that's why I'm inviting us to think of this instead as a way of calling one another in. It's been said that the way to covenantal accountability is not to call someone out, to call someone back in, or to invite them back to their better selves, to live into the promise we've made with each other that we are doing the best we can, and we can all do a little better. We are living in times that are polarized and divided in ways we haven't seen before. We're living in times when we want to say that things are decidedly right or wrong. We want to believe that we have the whole story. We want to believe that there is a right way and a wrong way. And as Unitarian Universalists, we are committed to the stance that there are many paths and many mountains. We affirm that there can be many truths and many interpretations. We affirm also that this journey, the key to the journey, is not the destination, but the process. Not the end game, but the relationships along the way. As Reverend Soto reminds us in our reading, our North Star is love. Not mushy love, but a fierce and bold love that is accountable to justice, equity, and compassion, a love that requires an openness. Ours is a tradition that says we are all worthy and good. Ours is also a tradition that says that how we treat each other matters. Ours is a tradition that says it is okay when we mess up, but it is also vital that we do what we can to move us all toward healing, reconciliation, and deeper relationship. This begins with the promises we make to each other. It begins when we covenant with each other. It begins there. And it is reaffirmed day in and day out in our conversations, our actions, our behaviors, our words, our meetings, and our partings. This is the foundation, and this is how we keep on loving boldly and moving forward together. So may it be. Amen. And blessed be. As we extinguish our chalices, we do not let go of the hope and the courage that they represent. We go forth from this place, carrying with us our sense of wonder and imagination, our promise to keep on moving forward, to keep on loving boldly. We carry our promise to work for justice, our compassion for all, our love and our courage out into this beautiful and broken world. Our service has ended. Let our true service now begin. Go in peace.